Hey, cruises are designed to be unforgettable adventures, moments of joy, relaxation, and discovery. In today's story, we'll experience a journey that began as the perfect vacation but turned into a nightmare that made its passenger hate cruises forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe. It means so much and helps me keep going. I'm a 34-year-old accountant from Denver, and last September I booked a cruise on the Ocean Majesty to spend a relaxing week in the Caribbean. After 2 years of grinding 60-hour weeks at my firm, I had finally earned the promotion I'd been chasing. But during my annual checkup, my doctor had started commenting on my stress levels. This cruise felt like the perfect therapy. 7 days of unlimited food, lounging by the pool, and absolutely no spreadsheets. I'd never been on a cruise before, but the brochures made it look like a floating paradise. Giant pools, multiple restaurants, and enough entertainment to keep everyone busy. The first 3 days were exactly as I'd hoped. I spent my mornings on the 7th deck with a paperback novel, my afternoons wandering the ship's endless corridors, and my evenings sampling different restaurants. The Ocean Majesty felt like a small city at sea. Nearly 4,000 passengers and crew spread across decks that seemed to stretch into infinity. I'd befriended a retired couple from Portland, Janet and Robert, veterans of dozens of cruises who were always pointing out the ship's best spots. Janet had a laugh you could hear from 3 tables away in the dining hall, and Robert always wore wild Hawaiian shirts that somehow looked stylish on him. We met every morning for breakfast on the Serenity deck, where the coffee was strong and the views of the ocean were breathtaking. But on the 4th morning, Wednesday, everything changed. I woke around 6:30 a.m. with a strange feeling. The ship didn't move with the calm rhythm I'd grown used to. Instead, it jolted in uneven motions. The engines sounded different too, like they were straining harder than usual. I assumed it might be rough weather, but when I pulled back the balcony curtain, the ocean was relatively calm. The morning sun cast a golden path across the water, and I noticed several other ships on the horizon. That was odd. We'd been almost completely alone in open water the past 3 days. I got dressed and went to meet Janet and Robert for breakfast, hoping they'd have an explanation. But when I entered the restaurant, the atmosphere was tense. Conversations were hushed, and several crew members huddled by the coffee station, whispering urgently. Janet and Robert were at our usual table, but their cheerful morning banter was gone. Robert, in a bright orange Hawaiian shirt with palm trees, looked pale beneath his sunburn. Janet wasn't laughing. She clutched her coffee cup with both hands, staring out at the distant ships. As soon as I sat down, Janet leaned in and whispered. She'd overheard troubling rumors from other passengers that the ship had taken an unexpected route during the night, and some of the crew seemed genuinely worried about where we were headed. Around 8 a.m., the PA system crackled to life with Captain Harrison's deep, normally confident voice. Usually he announced dinner reservations or entertainment schedules. This time he sounded tense. He ordered all passengers to return to their cabins immediately and remain there until further notice. No explanation, no time frame, just a command that sent chills through the dining hall. The whispering crew suddenly sprang into action, firmly but politely guiding passengers toward the elevators. Families with children hurried to gather their things, confusion and fear etched on their faces. Walking back to my cabin felt like a funeral procession. The lively corridors of the past 3 days were now eerily silent, broken only by hurried footsteps and anxious whispers. On the main deck, I caught a glimpse of something that made my chest tighten. The distant ships weren't cruise liners or cargo vessels. They were military ships, and they were getting closer. Their gray hulls sliced through the water with steady determination. I could see figures in uniform moving on their decks. The morning sun glinted off equipment that clearly wasn't meant for fishing or transport. I jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, desperate to reach my cabin. Once inside, I went straight to the balcony. The military vessels were close enough now for me to see chilling details. At least 4 ships were forming what looked like a blockade around us, flying red flags with symbols I didn't recognize. The largest vessel had a helicopter pad, and I could see armed personnel moving across its deck. Through the walls, I could hear muffled, panicked conversations from other passengers. A woman in the next cabin was crying, her family trying to calm her down. The Ocean Majesty's engines had nearly gone silent. We were barely moving, just drifting, while the military ships held their positions like guards watching a prize. At 9 a.m., the PA came on again, but it wasn't Captain Harrison. A voice with a heavy accent introduced himself as Commander Valdez of the Naval Defense Force. His words sent ice through my veins. He declared that the Ocean Majesty had entered restricted territorial waters without authorization and was now under military escort. Passengers were to remain in their cabins until the matter was resolved through appropriate diplomatic channels. The way he said resolved made it sound like we were cargo, not human beings. A heavy silence fell over the ship. Even the ocean seemed muted. The whole world felt like it was holding its breath. Hours dragged by with no updates. My calls to reception didn't go through, and the ship's Wi-Fi was cut off. I couldn't even message my family. From my balcony, I watched the warships maintain their positions, never more than a few hundred yards away. Around 2 p.m., the roar of helicopters thundered above us. Not just one, several. Their blades shook the entire ship as they circled like mechanical vultures. One larger helicopter hovered directly overhead, and I watched as soldiers in full gear rappelled onto the upper deck of our ship. Seeing armed troops physically board us was beyond terrifying. This wasn't a misunderstanding to be cleared up with a phone call. We were trapped in the middle of an international incident. The worst part was the uncertainty. No one knew what was happening or how long it would last. I heard children crying in distant cabins. Across the hall, the elderly couple I'd seen arguing earlier grew louder. He insisted on their rights as American citizens, while his wife begged him not to make things worse. By 4 p.m., the sound of heavy boots echoed in the corridor. Not the soft shoes of cruise staff, these were combat boots. A sharp knock rattled someone's door, followed by muffled conversation in what sounded like Spanish. Then, another knock, closer this time. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. When the knock finally came at my door, I froze, terrified to answer but just as afraid of what might happen if I didn't. When I opened it, a soldier in uniform stood there, flanked by a young crew member, Lisa, who just the day before had been serving drinks at the pool bar. Her usual bright smile was gone, replaced by barely restrained terror. The soldier, with a crisp uniform and unfamiliar insignia, demanded my identification in broken English. He checked my passport, gave a curt nod, and moved on to the next cabin. Lisa's eyes met mine briefly, and she whispered a single word: "Sorry." That fleeting moment made it all real. Someone I'd shared laughs with days ago was now a trembling guide for foreign soldiers. By 7 p.m., Captain Harrison's voice returned over the PA, but he sounded broken, his confident tone replaced by near defeat. He admitted the ship had indeed entered disputed territorial waters due to what he called navigational errors. Negotiations, he assured us, were underway. Our safety was the top priority, and we needed to remain calm and patient. But then he said something that froze my blood. The ship's course, he explained, had been altered to improve fuel efficiency. That cost-cutting decision had steered us into forbidden waters, and now 4,000 innocent people were paying the price. The tense standoff dragged through the night, warships holding their formation, soldiers patrolling our decks. By morning, we were released after what I later learned were intense diplomatic negotiations. The cruise line quietly settled lawsuits and dismissed Captain Harrison within weeks. I never found out whose waters we had actually entered, but I'll never forget the feeling of utter helplessness. Adrift in the middle of the ocean, trapped between corporate greed and international politics.